Hello guys, welcome to a new video of Fischer series. Today we look at round number 2 of the Mar del Plata held in Argentina. It's Fischer against Spassky, and on their first encounter ever we see the King's Gambit, one of the most aggressive, tactical, sharp, but also risky openings there is in chess. Let's dive straight into the game. Spassky has the white pieces and he starts with e4. Now we have e5 by Fischer and f4 by Spassky, the King's Gambit. And what makes it so risky that already on move number 2, we have weakened the dark squares around the king. So black can even give a check straight away. So what happens after queen h4 check? Well, then we have g3, queen back to e7, knight to c3, pawn takes. White actually doesn't take back, he just plays d4, activating his pieces. Now pawn takes again, bishop to f4, pawn takes h2, so you can see as white you do not really care about the pawns, you just want to activate your pieces and attack very fast. Now knight to f3, and look at the engine, it's actually better for white even though you're down 3 pawns, because now we can play bishop to h3, queen to e2, long castle, and all the pieces are attacking then in the game. So as black it can get very dangerous if you do not know how to defend it. That's why queen to h4 is not such a good move. Here Fischer plays e takes f4. Now we have knight to f3 to defend those dark squares. And g5 straight away, defended by the queen. h4 by Spassky, undermining the spot, but now g4, kicking away the knight. Knight goes to e5. The pawn is defended by the rook, so there are no checks. And well, if you try to save this pawn, since it attacked twice, we just activate the queen for no reason. And if you try to kick away the knight, then we actually have queen takes. And after pawn takes knight, we have queen h5 check, king to e7, and now you're losing the rook. So that's why as black you really have to know what you're doing. So here after g4, knight to e5, we have knight to f6 by Fischer and d4 by Spassky, activating the bishop. Now d6, Fischer wants to get rid of this knight, knight to d3, and knight takes e4. Well, now we have bishop takes f4, so Fischer is still up 1 pawn here. Now he activates his bishop since it was blocked in by the d6 pawn. And after bishop to g7, the best move here is actually knight to d2. And after knight takes, we do not take it back straight away. We actually play bishop to g5, attacking the queen. And after f6, now we take the knight, since now the dark squared bishop is still locked in. So that's why knight to d2 is the best move. But here Spassky plays knight to c3, which the engine gives a question mark, but it's still a good move. But now after knight takes, now we have doubled pawns. That's why the engine preferred knight to d2 here. But okay. After pawn takes, now c5 by Fischer. Since if you take the c5 pawn, then, well, you're just losing the rook. So you cannot take it. After c5, Spassky plays bishop to e2. And now he's really undermining this pawn. Now c takes d4. Still, you should not take it, then the rook is under attack, you have to move the rook and white cannot castle anymore. So after bishop to e2, we have c takes d4 and castles by Spassky. After castles, Fischer plays knight to c6, developing his knight and defending this pawn. Now bishop takes g4, so Fischer is still up 1 pawn here, and here he plays castles. And after castles, it might look weird since the king is very weak here. I mean, there's no g7 pawn. So that's why Spassky takes the bishop on c8. We have rook takes c8 and queen to g4, pinning this bishop. Now f5 by Fischer, attacking the queen. Queen goes back to g3 to still keep this pressure. Now d takes c3. And rook a to e1. So Spassky is down 2 pawns here, but look at his pieces. They're all looking towards the king here, which is very unsafe. So now Fischer plays king to h8 and king to h1 by Spassky, which is an interesting move, since if the queen moves away, we can actually take the pawn with check. but okay. After king to h1, we have rook to g8 by Fischer. He wants to attack the queen. So here Spassky plays the best move. If, for example, you play queen to f2, if you're scared of this rook, then Fischer would have bishop to d4, bishop comes back, now queen to f3, and black is slowly getting his piece into the game. But here Spassky played the best move, which is bishop takes d6. And after bishop to f8, now the bishop is attacked twice, and the queen is also under attack. Spassky here plays the best move, bishop e5 check. Now knight takes e5 and queen takes e5 check, rook to g7, and now rook takes f5. So material wise it's equal now again, but you can say that white has more pressure in this position. But look at this pawn, it's now weak and you can take it with check, so Fischer does that. Queen takes h4 check, king to g1, and queen to g4. Now we are threatening mate. So Spassky has to play rook to f2 and bishop to e7, activating the bishop. Now rook to e4, attacking the queen. Queen goes to g5, since if you take the queen, this is actually favorable for Fischer. Now there are no pins anymore, you can take with the bishop. And for example, if you play something like a4, now we have bishop to d2, and this is very safe, and it's very annoying for black actually. That's why Spassky here plays queen to d4. He wants to keep the queen. And after queen to d4, for some reason, Fischer made a huge blunder here. If you look at the engine, it's perfectly equal. For example, if you play b5, it looks like a free pawn. But after queen takes, we have bishop to c5, and you're actually losing. So what can you do here as Spassky? Well, not much, because actually black can be a bit better since it's a bishop against a knight in an open game. So for example, rook to e2, b4, and now rook to f7. We are attacking the bishop twice, and you cannot take the rook since you are pinned. Well, then we would have bishop to f8 and rook to f2, now attacking this bishop twice. Bishop to e7, rook to e2, bishop to f8, and this would just be a draw. There are no moves for black. But that didn't happen. In this position, Fischer played rook to f8. And that's actually a blunder. Since after rook to f8, Spassky plays the only move to win the game. I would say try to pause the video now and find the winning move for Spassky. So in this position, the winning move for Spassky is rook to e5. And this is going to be a problem, since after rook to e5 we are attacking the queen. Now we have rook to d8. Fischer tries to also attack the queen, but Spassky is never going to take it, since after takes, rook takes, simply bishop takes, we'll have this pin, and this is just perfectly fine for black. After rook to d8, simply queen to e4. And now we have another problem. The queen is not only under attack, but you are also attacking this bishop twice. You have to defend it with the queen. So Fischer now goes queen h4, still wanting this trade, but simply rook to f4. And there's no way for Fischer to keep defending this bishop. So that's why after rook to f4, Fischer resigned the game. I mean, this was a very short but also very nice game. Spassky simply played brilliantly, made no mistakes, and well, Fischer just made this one error with rook to f8 and lost the game. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If so, please like, subscribe or comment, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.